It's interesting. I think a lot of people that are kind of stepping into the world of spirituality that is evolving over the past 20, 25 years really don't fit in any of the traditional boxes anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't resonating with it where they used to previously. So it's interesting to just see what comes up and if you are feeling a connection. And if you look up to the sky and you're getting homesick and feeling teary, then that might be something to check out,
Absolutely.
Hey everybody, it's Tanya. Welcome to another episode of Starseed Chat. Today I'm going to be sharing an excerpt from a great conversation I had with Erin Lee and Bobbi Rowntree of Universal Connections on their show, Oracle Chats. I share a bit about what I do as a spiritual guide and a light code and awakening artist, as well as having a discussion about who the Starseeds are, possible theories, conspiracy theories, and so much more. It was a great chat and hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Oracle Chats. I'm Erin Lee of heavenlymessenger.com. And with me, as always, is my beautiful friend, Miss Bobbi Rowntree, foreign medium. And we are super excited to have another special guest with us today. Tanya QC of lightcodearts.com is joining us. Tanya QC is pretty phenomenal. And that was the first word that came to my mind as I was preparing to start talking about Tanya, because there are so many things that she does that I'm not even going to be able to get to everything in this comment. But she is a woman of diverse talents and abilities. She channels angels and other beings of light. She supports light workers, starseeds, and other highly sensitive people. She sells high vibe crystals through her Etsy shop, and she channels and creates activation art, which she also sells. I'll make sure that we include that link. She offers readings and a whole variety of support services. She also hosts a podcast, Women Working with Light. I was super duper grateful to have been one of the guests on Tanya's podcast several months ago. So she is just a wonderful person. I'm super excited to share her, and Bobbi as well. So welcome, Tanya, to the show.
Thank you. It's so excited to be here. I'm really excited to see the energy and the people that come through today. So yay!
Absolutely. The last several months, we've had lots of conversation coming up around starseeds. And I thought, oh man, I know exactly the person to invite on to ask for some help and support with that. Because I know that we have lots of people in our community who either are starting to learn more about it or possibly identifying as starseed, or potentially also have loved ones, particularly younger loved ones, who are possibly identifying as starseed. So we were kind of hoping that we could talk a bit about that today, but also want to throw it out there. I mean, we've got Tanya. She has so much energy and interest and focus that this is a really wonderful way to connect. I'm just seeing Jerry saying here she'd love to connect with one of your podcasts. She's a techie. I am techie broken. How do we find you?
Oh, easy. At youtube.com/lightcode. There's an actual playlist on there that has all of the Women Working with Light series on it.
Ooh, I will subscribe to you.
There we go.
Yes, that's a great question.
Yeah, I'm actually coming up on my 2-year anniversary on my channel in about 2 months. And I'm really close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm very, very excited about that.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Every week I share a video that has a channeled message, whether that is from the Starseed Galactic groups, the higher dimensional frequency groups. Sometimes it's the angelics or the ascended masters. And every time I work with them, I sit with their energy for about a week. And then we co-create together. And I create these amazing paintings that I do with their energy. And it encodes their messages and some of the light codes, which is high dimensional frequency energy that comes in right into the paintings. And it's so much fun for me because I never know what's going to come out. It's like mystery time. So that you can find all of that on Lightcode on youtube.com.
So I know that you have just created a painting activation art that was channeling Archangel Chamuel. Do you
Yeah.
have that handy?
I do. And this is really interesting for anybody that works with archangels, or if you're interested in the angels. So this was painted with the energy of Archangel Chamuel. And he brought forward a message that I thought was going to be rather short, maybe 5 to 6 minutes, but no, it was 20 minutes. And it was really interesting. And it was about living as a spiritual being in a human body and the challenges that we are going through right now, and especially the duality that is available to us on the earth plane. And so that's a lot of what is represented here. Now I'm going to just bring the painting towards the camera so that you can see some of the details. And also I use an iridescent and metallic watercolors. So this actually sparkles, and then you can see some of the details. So there's almost like a humanoid angelic being here, and then another one here. And then it just goes up, and then there's a symbol at the top that's almost, it's like a tower. And this was one of his symbols that he was saying. And this is the first time that I've ever painted anything like this. Every time I work with the different groups, they all have their own energy and frequency, and they have colors that they choose. And so I'll sit down with all of my paints and my paper and just let it flow. It's a very interesting process. It just comes through. And so that's that particular one. So that's a little bit different than my normal, but I thought it was a very interesting symbol, because I haven't had symbols. Usually everything is quite abstract. So you can actually see the entire creation of that painting from start to finish on the YouTube channel, and also listen to the message that he brought through. And that's what I do every week. I bring through a channeled message and then the painting, and then you can watch the whole process. And I think one of my favorite things about the YouTube channel is the community tab. So people are starting to connect with each other from around the world and sharing information and sharing things about the art that they see, sometimes things I haven't seen or even connected with. Sometimes what really amazes me are when people say, oh my gosh, I dreamt this symbol, or I've seen this symbol before, and it's something that I hadn't seen, and it was just coming through the work. So that's a little bit about what I do with that work. And then later in the show, if you guys want to see some more, I've got some other paintings that are specific to some of the well-known Starseed galactic groups, like the Pleiadians and Andromedans, Arcturians, all of them. There's a lot.
Awesome. That is so fascinating. I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to let you guys open up a little bit. But
okay, well, I have many questions, many questions, actually, and it has to do with the Starseed, the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, and all of that, because my knowledge of it is rudimentary at best and pretty much derived from Facebook, and it's not sufficient in any way. So help us with that.
Oh, sure. What would you like to know?
Quite possibly there are people who are watching who have never heard those words before.
Yeah,
Right.
I was just going to say, maybe just like a really quick down and dirty introduction, and we can kind of go from there.
Okay. Let's see if I can do this without segueing off, because I'm really, really good at segues.
We're really good at that too.
Really
So
Never did figure out what your favorite Christmas song was, but anyway.
So if you're watching this show and you're tuning into this energy, then you are someone who is already really curious about the spiritual community and different energies and different knowing and teachings. And so Starseeds is a concept that has been around for a while, but it's become really popular over the last 10 to 12 years, because a lot of people are sort of stepping out of the mainstream and finding that there is all this information out there that they'd never heard of before. And it's very titillating and it's exciting. And more so, a lot of people are really finding that they are connecting with it, the information, but also the other people that are following it in a way that they might not have with friends and family and coworkers. And so as people are experimenting and learning all of these different things, they're seeing a lot of content out there. And so I don't believe that there is one definitive answer about starseeds and galactic races. I think like with anything, you play around with all the information, you use your discernment, and where you see that little thread of information that runs through everything, that's kind of where the truth of it is for you, right? Because everyone has their own version of the truth. But the basics are that there's a belief that there are many different groups of beings in, on, and around the planet at this time who are here to support us as we are going through this shift of awakening, and how the collective consciousness, and if you haven't heard that term before, it is the energy, thought, and connections that we as humans and sentient beings on the planet are making together. And so there is this agreement that there were these groups here to help us. And a lot of people will see them as coming from a galactic relationship. So in our solar system and beyond. So for instance, many people are familiar with, especially right now in North America, and you look out at night and you can see Orion. It's one of the most common constellations. And so there are a group of beings that are a higher dimensional frequency. And this is a small segue, but one that I think is important. When I say higher frequency, I don't mean better than. It doesn't mean if you're a higher frequency, you're better than other people, or you have more information, or it's something you need to strive for in order to be on your life path. It simply means a higher vibration. It's vibrating faster. It's a different accessibility. My favorite metaphor is a hummingbird. So we all know hummingbird has wings, but when you see her fly, you don't see her wings, right? They're going too fast. So she's in a different vibrational frequency than we are. That's all. So we have these groups in different frequency that are here to help us. In this case, from the Orion system, the Orion group. And they have their own agenda of helping us in a very particular way. And so we have different groups like lightworkers, starseeds, way showers, empaths, and sensitives. And the starseeds are more connected to these groups. So people will see some information about, let's say, again, the Orions, and they might have this trait and that trait and this trait and that trait. And they'll go, oh, that's me. I'm totally all of these things. I'm compassionate. I want to help people. I'm really driven. I'm focused on being in service to the earth and the people and the animals at this time. And I really want to get things done, and I want to see results, and I want to help humanity move forward. Now, these are all aspects that the Orion group has. Or you might see some of the other groups like Pleiadian, Arcturian, Andromedan, Antarian. There are many, many different groups. And so people find an affinity to that information and say, I must be a starseed, meaning that you have a relationship with that energy. And also there's a belief system that these groups at one point in Earth's history brought their own DNA, their own information, their own teachings, and their own beings into the Earth experiment, the Earth energy, however you like to look at it. And that those descendants are actually related to that star system. So that's where people will say, oh, I'm a Pleiadian, meaning I relate to the star system Pleiades, and the Pleiadians have this energy, I have this energy, and I'm here to help them fulfill their mission. I'm the ground crew. Look, I air quoted already, and it didn't even take 5 minutes. So that's a little bit about where it is. And then we have all of these different groups and information, and what a lot of people will call the Starseed origin. And you'll see online, if you look up Starseed, you'll see Pleiadian and Andromedan, etc. You click through, you'll see, oh, the Pleiadians have all this information, and there might be drawings of little blue dudes, or there might be like amorphic energy fields. Everyone sees them in their own way. I connect with it on an energetic level. I very rarely see them in humanoid form, but that has happened in a few Starseed readings that I've done, which were really cool because it was like, oh my gosh, blue dudes, it's true. I wasn't expecting that. So it's a lot of fun. But that's kind of a nutshell, sort of like a little diversion into what the Starseeds are. And yeah, if you want to ask more specific questions, we can do that. Or if that.
Do you think possibly, just for the sake of yucks, that the gods and goddess construct that in ancient times was followed so often, Celtic gods, Norse gods, Greek gods, Roman gods. Could they actually be these folks that we're talking about? But
Oh, yeah.
humans are looking at them, they humanize them and make them into gods rather than people from another world, which
Yeah.
they are because they're gods. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Totally. And and again, this is information that's out there. It's just like conspiracy theories. There's a billion ideas, theories, concepts, right? There is a whole school of thought around the fact that all these ancient groups were actually extraterrestrial and here, because if you look at it in sort of the galactic perspective, Earth is what's called a free will planet. So those of us who are here are able to use our free will to do as we like. And it's also a planet that has this lower level density, which creates opportunities to have an experience that you wouldn't if you're in a higher vibration. So that would be all of the, what we really consider the negative emotions and the discordant feelings and all that heaviness, physically heavy, and the feeling pulled down, the gravity, the density. And so part of that leads into the Starseed concept that there were these races that were here. And because they had abilities that the people didn't understand or relate to, that they were seen as gods. I mean, have you guys heard this whole, it's not a concept, but it's a saying that they used to say about magic is really just technology that people don't understand?
I've never heard that, but
but it totally makes sense.
Yeah, so it seems like magic, right? But it's because you don't know the technology. If you took a cell phone back to the 60s,
just thinking,
it would look like magic, but
Yeah.
it's not technology. So perhaps it was star beings that were here. Perhaps there were beings that had humanoid bodies, but heads that were very unrelatable. I just keep thinking of Thoth in the Egyptian mythology. So you see the gods with the heads, and then you actually see that in some of the recent movies that have come out in the past 10 years, where they're bigger and they have the unusual heads that you see in the Egyptian lore, and then the humans were smaller. So that's one of the billion rabbit holes around Starseeds.
Yeah, and it's endless, and there are so many, and it's I think it's just so easy to get stuck into folks' opinion rather than what you can see yourself, because there is so much information out there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
One of the things that you said that I really resonated with was the thread of truth that you find in all of the little bits and pieces of the things that are out there. Not all of it will necessarily fit, but once you find the threads that you can string together that make sense for you, for your experience, that's where you are and what to follow. And I notice Amanda here has a wonderful comment or statement. She said, I wonder where I fall in all of those. And I wonder if you have any suggestions for people who are, wanting to find out where they would fall into.
Oh, absolutely. So this is something I talk about in some of the videos on my YouTube channel. There is a group on Facebook for everything. So if you are looking for Starseed information, all you have to do is type in Starseed and you are going to get a long list. This is where one of my favorite things to say, again, is use your discernment, because one of the traps that a lot of people fall into is often you're coming from a place, some people call it the dark night of the soul, where everything sort of goes into upheaval. You've discovered there's all these new ideas and belief systems and information you've never had access to, and you just want to jump into it. And as that happens, your relationships start to change. You might lose friends. You might not feel like you can confide in your family, or you might have fear or discomfort that people are going to judge you because you're exploring these ideas. Or you're feeling an affinity to these ideas, and you might not feel an affinity to your previous spiritual beliefs. And that's very challenging for people.
Yeah.
And so there's a tendency to jump into these groups. And I see two things happening consistently. One is people are like, what's my Starseed origin? Or the other is they'll put a picture of their face and say, who am I? What's my origin? Read my aura.
Right.
And I think this is challenging, because you want to connect with people and you're very excited to be there. But on the other hand, there's no filter. You have no idea who's going to answer or what's coming through and is it true or not true. So you really have to learn to use your discernment, and B, really learn to trust your intuition and your heart,
Mhm.
which I know you guys are really excellent at helping people with.
Yes. But it can get confusing because,
Yeah.
well, I know for myself, especially when I first opened up and decided that I was going to accept what I was, the vastness of it absolutely blew my little mind. I couldn't,
Yes.
like, wow, oh my gosh, there's so much. And the way I look at it, because I have to admit a couple things, actually. And I don't think I've ever told you this, Erin. Every now and again, I see myself as a little blue person.
Very cool.
It's a bluey white little person. And I've looked even at myself. I look like I'm made of. And me and a whole bunch of other of us are sitting around this, what it looks like a fire, but it's out of crystal.
Yep.
It's the
Beautiful.
strangest thing. And this is the weird thing, actually, because you,
Uh-huh.
Tanya, I lay in my tub and my ceiling is wood. And I have these knots that I stare at, that I meditate at, and they look like Orion's belt.
I was so excited that you mentioned Orion, because that was going to be one of the things I asked about, because Orion, since I was a kid, has always been my favorite constellation, and I always look for it in the sky. And in fact, when I got my new phone, Orion was like one of the first pictures that I took. And as you were describing it, I'm like, well, a lot of those things are things that I identify with, but also I identify with from being like an angel person as well. Because all of those things that you mentioned were like, yeah, that's me. And that's also part of the connection that I have with
too. Are they alien realms, or are they actually other worlds? And we want to, we say alien because that's the vernacular that we use here.
Yeah.
The way I see it, because people always tell me, okay, I'm from another planet. And I think, well, maybe it's not a planet. Maybe it's a world.
Yep.
Maybe we put it in the scientific way, because then it makes sense. And then we can logic it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who's to say, right? It's really about where your belief system is. I really don't believe there's a right or wrong answer. I think
it's perception.
What resonates with you is your truth. And that's important. And I just have to say, I don't believe I've ever used the Orions as an example before. So obviously they had some stuff to say. It's almost always the Pleiadians or the Antarians that come through. So that's fine.
So I've never heard of them. So yeah, that makes that maybe this is how we figure out why we're so connected, Erin.
Right? Probably. And Jerry's comment here is ETs were here long before us. They were our guardians. There's proof everywhere that has been found. And she goes on to say, I also believe we have joined with them many times. And I mean, I think that our artists are some of our most sensitive people and beings, and this is what they're creating. They're creating music around little blue people. They're creating a whole cartoon series around little blue people, and we see it in lots of different like cartoon things, right?
And
so I find that really interesting.
I use it as a verb.
Smurf?
Smurf. I use the word Smurf, like Smurf stew. I have done since I was a kid. Even what Jerry says when we talk about our guardians, when you were talking about that, the little voices in my head were flashing stuff that I've read about history. Could they possibly be the same thing, and that's a perception thing again, or is that just history? What do you think?
I think there's always a little bit of truth and a little bit of myth that are mixed together.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you see these threads of story that are continually coming forward, there's some truth there, right? It's like the old game with the tin can on your ear and the string, and you pass it to the next kid, and you eventually you lose the meaning. But there is some truth to it, and I believe that they are there and have been for a long time. Humans are very interesting because we're having this fun little jaunt in these bodies, and a lot of us are starting to remember there's more to us than what we thought, and we're light beings in a human body, but we are in a place where we have agreed to have this linear time frame, and it's quite small. And so a lot of people really get stuck in the here and now and forget that there were things that are precursors to us.
And there might be everything here.
I always find it fascinating that people think that ancient cultures didn't know as much as we did. That just blows my mind.
That is fascinating, actually. Yeah. Have you heard of the Incas, for goodness sakes?
Yeah. And so who's to say they didn't have a little help, a little support, maybe a little nudge in a particular direction? And these are conversations that could go on all year. There's so many theories and ideas.
Oh, there is. And there, my entire childhood, the Great Wall of China, the pyramids, the bending of spoons, things like that, what we can do with our minds that we tell ourselves we cannot.
I think there is the free will to choose which direction we want to focus on.
Yeah, I would agree completely and absolutely on that one.
Yeah. I think that's the power of people creating and finding these communities, whether that's light workers or way showers or starseeds, is that you're seeing other people that are going through the same and you're helping each other out. So you might get stuck in a place and have a lot of confusion, but then you're seeing that there's all these other people that are going through the same thing. They might not have their relationships with their family being the same. They might not feel that they can connect in a way that feels true to themselves because they're censoring what they say out of fear. So that's where those communities are extremely powerful. It's just a matter of seeing what resonates with you. Because I'm going to tell you a story that I think is really funny, because almost every person that identifies with the whole starseed concept goes through.
Yeah.
See this list, and this list says Pleiadian, and on this list it says fun and joyful, sensitive, empathic warrior, wants to help a lot of people, really focused on animals or nature or other people that are suffering, nurturers, the people that are taking care of others. And you're like, that's me, that's me, that's me. I'm Pleiadian. And you're so excited. And then you just like jump down the rabbit hole and everything's Pleiadian, Pleiadian. And then you'll see another list and it'll say Antarian, directed, focused on science, linear. And you're like, oh, but that's even more me. And then off you go to that one. So it's fun to play. But again, give yourself the freedom and the joy to experiment without getting locked into something that someone has told you.
Yeah, I would think as well that a lot of inner work needs to be done before you even look at the list and see, because when people ask me, can I bring a friend to my reading? I say, yes, please do. Because it's amazing how many people do not know themselves.
Yeah. Or there's the hot seat phenomena. Like I can be giving information, but they're like on the hot seat, and in the moment they're not thinking about it. But the friend can be like smacking them. What are you talking about? Of course that's true.
It is you. That's what you do.
Totally do that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I've even had people flat out tell me I am this kind of person, and the voices in my head going, they are not that kind of person.
No.
They think they are, but they are not.
It's interesting. I think a lot of people that are kind of stepping into the world of spirituality that is evolving over the past 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
Really don't fit in any of the traditional boxes anymore.
Yeah.
And so we try to find, there's so many things out there. There's like Ayurvedic, and there's like human design is a big one that's all over the place right now. And a lot of people aren't resonating with it where they used to previously. So it's interesting to just see what comes up, and if you are feeling a connection. And if you look up to the sky and you're getting homesick and feeling teary, then that might be something to check out.
Absolutely.
Just to see.
Carrie's just said, pretty sure we are all aspects of many things. And I really appreciate that, because part of what we're kind of looking at and talking about here is like, I come from one place. Well, I mean, certainly something that we've seen over the last several centuries on the earth is a mixing of races that's been happening. So like if you were to go through and have your genealogy done, you would find that you're a little bit of a whole pile of things. Why would that not also be true with the other energies that are out there? Maybe you're a little bit Pleiadian and Orion, and maybe you're a little angelic and a little fairy and a little bit of this and that. There's so many different aspects and elements that you could be, might not be just one.
Yeah, it's the multi-dimensional existence. That's what I call it, which is a fancy pants way of saying we're existing in many places at the same time. And I love to use the metaphor of paper stacked on itself. So if you think of a stack of paper, and every single one of those papers is a different universe, but similar. And so you might be on this sheet, you might be on that sheet, you might be having experiences in the same place at different times. One might be as an Orion representative on Earth at this time in a human body. One might be actually as a light being. One might be as an amorphic cloud of energy somewhere. We really don't know. And that's kind of the fun of playing.
Yeah, because time is a construct of here.
Yeah.
therefore it doesn't exist anywhere else. We have this linear idea
Absolutely.
here all the darn time.
Yeah. There's all those constructs that as beings that have incarnated here, we kind of all agree upon them so that we can have a similarity in this earth experience, you know? So like our sky is blue, there's gravity, time is linear. And then amongst that, then we have playtime. You know, it's like, what am I going to create? What am I going to look at? What am I going to explore? And it's a pretty neat place to be, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting though, but okay, so in this concept, we actually come from these places and incarnate into these meat suits, and then when we cross, we go back to these places. Is that correct then?
I think none of us really know the answer to that. I think if that feels right to you, then that's probably true.
Okay.
My feeling personally is that there's a source energy, a one energy, of which we are a part. I'm source, you're source, Erin is source. So is my mug. So is the art in my room. That it's everything, and it's just having different experiences. So it could also be a starseed race. It could also be angelic energy. It could be any of the non-tangibles that we are starting to connect with, as all of us are starting to come online and we have all these amazing abilities. For instance, light language and light codes and channeling. I think anybody can do it. It's just a matter of whether you have an affinity towards it and want to experiment or not. And there's no right or wrong in it. You know, that's the fascinating part of it. Now, have you guys heard of light codes before?
I've seen little bits and pieces, partly through you, Tanya, and partly through a couple of other clients I have, but it's not something I've dabbled with. How about you, Bobbi?
No, not really. No, not dabbled with it.
So those of you that are exploring starseeds, you're going to hear about this phenomenon called light language and light codes, because a lot of the starseed connected people are also connecting to these energies. And so it can be expressed in multi ways. And what it is it's higher dimensional frequency of light that is anchoring into the earth experience, whether that is through the being, the person, or directly through light. A lot of people believe that our sun is connected to what's called the central sun that connects many galaxies and universes, and that information and energy is coming in to the planet, which is part of why sunlight is essential to humans and why it is so beneficial to us in small doses. And so a lot of people are connecting with the real light, but also this information and higher dimensional frequencies that are coming in that are helping people on ground level here. So helping people to get through difficult times. What a lot of people are now referring to as DNA upgrades, or expanding your ability to look at things in a new way, creating a different level of consciousness. And so many people are connecting to it, and you'll see it in a couple of ways. One is light language spoken, which can sound often like another language completely. Some people, it can sound like singing. Some people will do it in their hands, so they'll be speaking, and it's not like universal sign language. Look, I know J, that's it. But the light language will come through as they're doing it. And some people will move. So you'll see people that are doing light language and they're dancing and they're bringing the energy through. And it's akin to channeling. It's just in its own specific format. So
very cool.
Is it essentially bringing in positive energy into your body and then allowing it to move its way through you in the natural way that light moves through you?
I would say so. And then each individual is anchoring it into their existence in the way that is comfortable for them. So for me as an artist, it comes through, actually, I've had it come through in every one of those ways. But what happens for me the most is it comes through in channeling. So I actually feel it through my chakras. It comes in. And then it comes out verbally, because I'm present, but I'm not speaking. So what's coming through me is often their information and then my experience combined. But it's it's fascinating. And then it'll come through. I've got an example of a Pleiadian piece right here. There are these little codes and shapes that are coming through, and those are what are called light codes. And so that is the frequency and energy of the Pleiadian group that I'm working with. And these are all, they have no up or down, so you might relate to it this way. I personally see a whale, but everybody's different. And every group that I've channeled has their own light code, their own specific writing. It has different shapes, different sizes, different speeds. And so it's like being a scribe, right? So this information is coming in the way that you guys would do a reading, for instance, right? Like you're connecting and you're verbalizing what's coming through. I'm connecting and I'm writing it or I'm painting it.
Yeah.
And it comes through as these symbols and these energies. And then the phenomenon to me is somebody from around the world that I don't know at all sending me a message saying, I dreamt that symbol.
Yeah.
This is so
That's
trippy.
really cool.
I can't believe it. I actually have that one here. I'll share that one with you because this was one of the first that I did. And this is from a Starseed group called the Antarians. And I drew this and I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like a spaceship. It's so trippy. And it's actually, I hand embellished them so you get the little sparkle on there. But I did this one. It was one of the first videos I put on my YouTube channel. And somebody came up and messaged me and said, I dreamt that not even a month ago. That is so bizarre. And I thought that was bizarre. And I also thought, well, something's happening. Because if it's connecting with people and helping them in some small way, then that's what I need to be doing. So that's the excitement of it. And more people are coming online and recognizing these symbols, feeling the energy of it, wanting to know more, which pulls them into communication with others that are in the same boat and others that are giving them support and love and information that they can use to help as they're moving forward.